Okay, good morning. As we're heading into another school year, we're going to have some new challenges. And every year, there are new challenges and new discoveries on your journey to study. Now, just recently, I spoke to some students who were applying for colleges, and these are American students. And it is, let's say, August right now, actually going into September. So these students are seniors in America, and they want to start university next fall. So, of course, some of the questions I asked is, do you have a list of schools you want to go to? Have you checked on the prices of some of the schools you want to go to? What are your test scores like? What are your grades like? These are all things that you need to have in order before you start talking about your applying to schools. Now, the problem is what happened is you kind of wait a little bit too late to get all this stuff together. So now your senior year, instead of kind of like taking some of your last classes and kind of like a little bit enjoying your last years in high school, you're spending time doing things that you kind of should have done as a junior. So let's say, for example, if you're talking about standardized tests, and I recommend that standardized tests shouldn't start in 12th grade, which means that you shouldn't take your first SATs in 12th grade. 11th grade, 10th grade, as you can start getting some practice, understand what's going on. All right. Think about it right now. It's September right now when we always talk about early admission, right? Early admission students have already sent in a lot of their applications already because they've already known where they want to go into for some time now. So they're going to have the advantage because when they apply for early admission, everybody else is still sleeping, trying to get the other stuff together, their grades and stuff like that, whatever. So this is why I always said that early admission could sometimes be like a cheat code, especially if you're a great student, because you can go in there, get all your items in there early, and you might get an offer before September's even out to maybe one of your favorite schools. Now I can tell you I know how that is because I've had that with, two of my kids where they did early admission. They went for the little interview, and really before October, they knew where they were going to go. So early admission works if there's schools that you want to go to, and if you're strong academically. So if somebody wants to go to Harvard and he gets early admission to Harvard, it makes no sense waiting for the other schools because you already know what you want. Then, of course, there's the financial aspect. When you start talking about early admission, now you're also available for a lot of extra grants, scholarships, things like that. So I feel that right now, if you don't have your things in right now, you've kind of missed early admission. Well, I'm not saying that missed, but you don't have too much longer to get your things in. Some early admission deadlines are October, November, depending on the school you're talking about. But you're kind of, falling behind right now. You want to make sure you get on top of that. Now, I believe that all international students, the earlier you get your paperwork in, the better. So if you can get your paperwork in like maybe that first month of your senior year, now you can just kind of stand there and wait because you do have to understand that the process for you was going to be different than an American kid. It's going to be different than, my kid just wakes up and says that, he's ready to go to school or she's ready to go to school and fill out the paperwork you know, as um as an opposite of you, where you're going to have to get everything together. You have to worry about visas and all sorts of things like that. So it's a bit difficult. So I believe that international students should really work on a time scale of about 3 months ahead of their American counterparts because you're dealing with immigration, you're dealing with your records and stuff. So things are definitely going to take a long time. All right. In that meantime, the best thing for you to do really is to build your English up. And I've met plenty of great English speakers and plenty of great English learners. But when you're going to university, this is the time that you have to ramp this up. Because to be honest, it gets really intense. Hours and hours and hours of research, hours and hours and hours of teaching, reading, things like that. So you have to be strong in that field. I've seen quite a few kids come to America to study English. No, not study English, just study in America. And they had difficulty because they weren't able to adapt to the speed of the English. They weren't able to adapt to the accents. They weren't really able to adapt to it. So they didn't do too great. Whereas you have some students who went to English medium schools their whole life, like in France or maybe in Saudi Arabia or even UAE, where they went to school, an English medium school since kindergarten, and now they speak just like a Native American. So not like Native American, but somebody who's from well, you know what I'm saying. So you end up speaking like without let's say without accents or things like that, without without any hindrance. So those are students that are going to be kind of strong, and these are students that really college is looking for. They like to see students that actually come out and they're familiar with familiar with the American schooling system and the background and things like that, because they know that they have a higher chance to succeed. So a guy, let's say if you have someone in Yemen who studied in Yemeni American schools in Sana'a, and he's fluent in English and was taught in English and everything, as opposed to somebody who might be from a village in Yemen who barely has any English skills strong, but you think, okay, how's this guy going to survive there? His English isn't that strong. He doesn't have a lot of projects. He just goes to a little school in Yemen outside of Sada somewhere. All right. So once again, September's right now. We have to get moving. If we're not going to make early admission, let's at least make regular admission. All right. So we need to get out there right now and to get to work.